This is the VOA Special English Education Report. Many rural areas in the United States have no doctor. Some medical schools are trying different ways to treat the problem. One idea is to educate doctors in smaller communities and hope they stay. Dr. William Cathcart Rake heads a new program at the University of Kansas in the Midwest. He says, "We need more docs. There's somewhere like a quarter of all of our physicians in Kansas are 60 years of age or older. So we need to be replacing physicians too." He says medical students from rural areas now typically study in Wichita or Kansas City, two of the biggest cities in Kansas. They say, I really have every intention of coming back to rural Kansas, but they meet a soulmate, they get married, their soulmate happens to be from a big city, and we never see them again. The program is based in Kansas' 10th largest city, Salina, home to about 50,000 people. Salina is about a 3-hour drive from Kansas City, past fields of corn, soybeans, and cattle. Student Claire Hinrichsen grew up in a town of about 600 people. One reason she likes the Salina program is because of the size. There are only 8 students, the smallest medical school in the country. Classes are taught by professors in Salina or on a video link from Kansas City or Wichita. Students who complete the 4-year program will then do their residency training in a small community in the surrounding area. One place a resident might work is the Clay Center Clinic, where Dr. Carrie Murphy is a family physician. Dr. Murphy says, "This is a clinic that has currently 8 doctors and 4 mid-level practitioners, and we cover, of course, this town, but we also have satellite clinics in 2 nearby towns. We just kind of operate as what I call a cradle-to-grave operation. We deliver babies and go all the way up to doing nursing home care." Rural doctors generally serve older, poorer patients. Going into a specialty in a big city can mean better working hours and more money to pay off student loans. The Salina program will pay tuition for each year that students practice in a rural area in Kansas. Dr. Cathcart Rake hopes 4 years of medical school and 2 years of residency will be enough time to put down roots. In his words, it's going to be, hopefully, harder for them to break away from those roots and go to bigger cities. For VOA Special English, I'm Alex Villarreal.
This is the VOA Special English Agriculture Report. Bees add an estimated $18 billion a year to the value of American crops. They pollinate flowers that become fruits, nuts, and vegetables. But in recent years, honeybee colonies in the United States and Europe have been shrinking. Scientists have proposed different theories to explain what is known as colony collapse disorder. New research suggests that a commonly used group of insecticides could cause bees to have a hard time finding their way back to their hive. The new research looks at the use of pesticides called neonicotinoids. They were first used in the 1990s. They are now put on the seeds of many major crops around the world. The seedlings absorb the chemical as they grow. That means farmers do not need to spray a whole field. Instead, there is a little bit of insecticide inside each plant, including the pollen and nectar that the bees want. There is not enough pesticide to kill them, but the new research in the journal Science says it may harm them anyway. Researchers stuck microchips to the backs of the bees. These chips recorded the bees' movements as they came and went from their hive. The scientists fed some bees sugar water with a low dose of a neonicotinoid. The study found that these bees were about twice as likely not to return as other bees. Michael Henry from INRA, the French National Agriculture Research Institute, says the bees basically get drunk. He says intoxicated honeybees with those small doses may just get lost and are not able to find their way back home. For some crops around the world, wild pollinators like bumblebees are more important than honeybees. Dave Golson at the University of Stirling in Britain worked on another study in Science. He says the pesticides could help explain why bumblebee populations are also decreasing. He says there were 85% fewer queens produced than when they had been exposed to what he called realistic field levels. Bayer Crop Science makes neonicotinoid pesticides. Company spokesman Jack Boyne disputed the findings. He says the authors dosed the bees at levels far greater than what would commonly be experienced in the field. He also notes that researchers are studying other factors that could affect bee populations. Some European countries have banned the pesticides, and there are growing calls to ban them in the United States as well. For VOA Special English, I'm Carolyn Presutti.
This is the VOA Special English Education Report. Millions of students have been taught a formula that has nothing to do with chemistry. The formula is for how to write a 5-paragraph essay. First, write an introductory paragraph to state the argument. Then, add 3 paragraphs of evidence. Finally, write a conclusion. Linda Bergman is director of the Writing Lab at Purdue University in Indiana. Her job is to help students, including international students, improve their writing. Professor Bergman has worked with many students who learned this traditional 5-paragraph formula. She says international students sometimes have difficulty with this formula if they learned a different writing structure. But just knowing how to write a 5-paragraph essay is not going to be enough for a college student who has to write a longer academic paper. As Professor Bergman points out, the formula is too simple to deal with subjects that require deeper thought and investigation. In her words, essentially, it is way too simplistic to handle more intellectually sophisticated topics which involve actual inquiry. Karen Goshik is Executive Director of Courses in the Institute for Writing and Rhetoric at Dartmouth College in New Hampshire. The Institute has an extensive library of online writing materials on its website. So, what are the qualities that make up good writing? Ms. Goshik says there are no simple answers, except maybe for one. That is, there is no formula that students can follow to guarantee a well-written paper. She says, what we try to teach students to do in college is to listen to their ideas, and that the idea should be able to tell you what form it needs to take. She says moving from secondary school writing to college-level writing can be difficult, but students should not be afraid. American college students are usually expected to state their thesis at the beginning of a paper. In some cultures, students organize their paragraphs to build toward the main idea at the end. And while students in some cultures use lots of descriptive words, American professors generally want shorter sentences. For VOA Special English, I'm Alex Villarreal. Tell us about your own experience with academic writing. Go to voaspecialenglish.com and share your stories. And before you write that next paper, check out 2 links on our website. One is for the online writing lab at Purdue. The other is for the Institute for Writing and Rhetoric at Dartmouth. From VOA Learning English, this is the Economics Report in Special English. The American economy improved in 2012, but the rate of growth remained low. America's jobless rate fell to its lowest level in 4 years. Average home prices ended a long period of decline, and money started flowing into financial markets again. But at the year's end, many observers said the economic recovery had not been as strong as they had hoped. Like many other countries, the United States is spending more money than it is receiving. Some countries are spending money they do not have in an effort to get their economies growing again. Yet many experts say spending money you don't have, or deficit spending, has caused global financial problems with debt, especially in Europe. Other economists say the mathematics is not that simple. Desmond Lockman of the American Enterprise Institute says that deep budget cuts in Greece have only produced a deep recession. Some see political inaction as a threat. Financial reform activist Robert Bixby says the biggest problem for the American economy is the country's political system. He says political dysfunction is a bigger threat than economic problems. Federal Reserve Chairman Ben Bernanke says the country does not have to be this way. Recently, he has urged lawmakers to provide leadership. He has called on lawmakers to cooperate and creatively deliver fiscal clarity, or a clear path to solving the nation's budget problems. On January 1st, Congress agreed on new tax legislation. The measures took the place of larger tax increases and budget cuts that were to take effect automatically at the beginning of this year. For VOA Learning English, I'm Alex Villarreal. From VOA Learning English, this is the Education Report. American colleges are facing many problems. College costs are rising, and there are not enough jobs for the people who have finished study programs. But employers say they cannot find enough workers with technical skills. Now, online classes might offer solutions. Many top universities offer online classes. Students can often take these classes at little or no cost. Lynda.com is one website with online classes. Linda Weinman helped to launch the website. She says that colleges cannot teach technical skills easily because these skills change quickly. But it is easy for websites with online classes to keep up with new technology. Online classes offer different ways to learn. At most colleges, a professor gives a lecture and the students research and study alone. Students who take online classes listen to lectures at home, but they work with their professor on projects and homework. Experts say the growing number of online classes will have a major effect on colleges. Some say college classes in the future may be a mix of online lectures and professors helping students in person. Georgetown University labor economist Tony Carnevale says he would welcome these changes. He says a college education must lead to skills that employers need. He also notes that the college system needs to become more efficient. Chris Cullen is a college marketing expert. He says competition from online schools and concerns about costs will change universities. He says top universities with strong public images may expand in an online world, but less famous schools may struggle to interest students. For VOA Learning English, I'm Alex Villarreal.
This is the VOA Special English Health Report. Imagine this situation. You pass a group of people. The people are talking to each other. You cannot hear what they are saying. But suddenly, they start laughing. What would you think? Would you think they were laughing at something funny that one of them said? Or, be honest with yourself, would you think they were laughing at you? Yes, you. Being laughed at is a common fear, but a major study published in 2009 found that this fear is not the same around the world. It differs from culture to culture. People in Finland were the least likely to believe that people laughing in their presence were making fun of them. Less than 10% of Finns in the study said they would think that way, compared to 80% of people in Thailand. Some people in the study said they felt unsure of themselves in social situations, but hid their feelings of insecurity. Others said they avoided social situations where they had been laughed at before. The study found that people in Turkmenistan and Cambodia were more likely to be in the first group. They would hide their feelings of insecurity if they were around other people's laughter. But people in Iraq, Egypt, and Jordan were more likely to try to avoid such situations if they felt they had been laughed at before. Shy people often avoid situations that would force them into close contact with other people. They worry that something they say or do will make other people laugh at them. But some people worry much more than others. They may have a disorder called galatophobia. Gelos is a Greek word. It means laughter. Phobia means fear. This fear of laughter can be truly sad for those who live with it. It can affect how they lead their lives. In the study, a team from the University of Zurich led more than 90 researchers from around the world. They wanted to understand the difference between normal shyness and true galatophobia. Another purpose of the study was to compare the levels of fear of being laughed at in different cultures. The researchers surveyed more than 22,000 people in 42 different languages. The findings appeared in the scientific journal Humor. For VOA Special English, I'm Carolyn Presutti. Is shyness a serious problem for you or someone you know? It was for a university student who asked people in our audience for advice on how to deal with it. You can find out what they said at voaspecialenglish.com.